This is truly just one of those feel-good leagues. You get to see the highs and lows of Modern Mill, anything from, testing out the recently unbanned Preordain, which I think is a staple in Mill at this point. Get your copies. And the recent tech of Subtlety, which we kind of need for Rakdos Evoke, but is kind of nuts against cards like Murktide Region and Karn the Great Creator. But then finally, for those Mill oldies out there, you get to see Crypt Incursion save me twice, allowing me to win the game. Not a common thing you can say with the recent modern metagame, but Crypt is still good. And as you enjoy this league, I hope you can remember that this is brought to you in part by the MTG Ambassador Program. As an ambassador myself, I want to guide you through a nice, quaint, lovely league of Modern Mill. Didn't I mention the league would start off a little bit rough? I mean, it doesn't look too bad, right? They play Esper Sentinel, we're playing against Hammer, we got the Tashas in our hand, but let's work towards the top bit, okay? Now, I don't want to kill the Esper Sentinel off the rip because it actually draws us cards them cards putting cards off their deck. My patience pays off. I get the Fatal Push off on the Stoneforge Mystic, but I get the Archive Trap, and I don't care that they're drawing cards because as with many previous games, you find that Esper Sentinel draws you enough cards to the point where kind of like milling them for like 4 to 5 cards. It's not bad. That's like a cycle fractured. So you play the Flooded Strand, they play on other planes. And at this point, I kind of want to kill the Esper Sentinel just because I know that they're going to be creating tokens. I want those tokens to be a little bit smaller, preserve my life total just a little bit, see if they cast anything on second main, but let's just fetch and kill it now. On my turn, I'm kind of looking to cast that Fractured Sanity, and you're going to see, because in their graveyard, they have an Emeria's Call. I'm thinking, well, that can't be the only one. I have to try and mill those over so that my Tasha is just as effective. Emeria's Call is a 7-mana permanent. Now, I cast the Fractured Sanity, I get over a bunch of hammers, but I don't get any Emeria's Call, and you're going to see why that's a problem in a second. Now, they create 2 constructs, one on their end step, one on their turn. They get a Shadow Sphere, play another Saga. It's not looking great. They got a lot of artifacts on their battlefield. I'm hoping this Tasha's can get me somewhere, but I decide before I do that, I'm just going to fetch in Preordain. I put an Archive Trap into my hand, try and get ready for another search off the Urza Saga eventually. I play the Tasha's, and it's not lethal. I milled over 2 Emeria's Calls. It's going to be a little tough, and they're going to find exact lethal here. Obviously, I could have prepared for this. I could have had the Drown. They activated the Ink Moth, by the way, to put them over the top, but regardless, I could have had the Drown up, but I thought going for it was the correct move. I could have maybe milled them over 1 more card, but let's just go to game 2. And you might be asking yourself, Shaft, are you going to lose to Hammer? And I'm not saying anything just yet. It's going to be a tough game. I got double Crab. I got the Soul Guide Lantern. You have to be prepared for the shuffle effect, whether or not they have it. Now, they play the Sigard as aid. That's not great because my removal is 2 mana. It's not that efficient, but I am going to mill them as much as possible, and I at least am going to get a Soul Guide Lantern out. Now, I see the Relic there, so maybe not a shuffle effect, but they play the Sanctifier on Vec, which is actually insane because they brought in more than 60 cards, and Sanctifier on Vec is crazy when you think about the fact that our removal is Fatal Push and Drown in the Loch. And now the Pithing Needle named Field of Ruin, which is also frustrating because that'll shut off some of our Archive Traps, and I have to throw a Crab away just to get something going. At least they didn't name Polluted Delta. Now, I unfortunately have to use a Preordain to draw that land, which isn't great. I can get an Extirpate going. The Extirpate is going to miss the Hammer because it's already on the battlefield, so it's not where I needed to be. I am very, very far behind in this game right now, and I'm going to take the Emeria's Call because I'm thinking, okay, if I live 1 more turn, I top deck a Tasha's, I think I can get there, right? Like, I have a Drown in the Loch. Maybe I can stop something. I'm at 14 life. Maybe I counter one thing. I redraw. Like, it should be okay. It should be okay. It's a very slim chance. Hopefully they don't tap out for a token or play a it's just, come on. It's not going to look that good right now. We drew 2 lands. We're just going to concede. It's not working for us by numbers. And hey, Mill can lose to Hammer sometimes. I promise, folks, you will see me work some magic with some Preordains and Crypt Incursions, but work with me temporarily right now. We see the Bobble, see the Spire Bluff. It's a big bad of the format. It's Murktide Region. Now, it's not Rakdos Evoke, and that's fine, but the triple Mishra's Bobble off the rip to gain the information and redraw and put cards in your graveyard is just, it's so good on their side. You kind of wish you could do it as well. And hey, there were the days of Loros where we could play Mishra's Bobble as well, and right now it's kind of just suboptimal, but hey, I have the Fractured Sanity at least, which is great. I have the 2 lands I can redraw, so it's not terrible. It's just their graveyard is kind of stacked. They're not going to search too much. The Archive Trap is kind of dead in our hand, and the Jace just feels like a 3-mana thing that's going to get countered, and so does the rest of my hand. I'm going to fetch. I'm going to cycle with Fractured Sanity. I'm going to hope for some type of removal. Now, I see the Ledger Shredder. I gain a little bit of hope, right? The Murktide decks are pretty dense in their creatures. I'm going to try and throw out a Tasha because I top deck a land, and ultimately, look, you got to try and bait the counterspell somehow. I realize they're at 8 cards right now, but that Murktide isn't going to be too big, honestly. They only have 2 instant and sorceries in their graveyard. It's not big. It's only a 5/5. That's not too bad. It's not an 8/8. Now I can Fatal Push that. I kind of wish I had Ensnaring Bridge Mainboard. That'd be something to work towards, but I'm going to choose to Fatal Push. I'm going to Preordain into a Preordain. I'm going to Preordain into some more lands, and I'll make the land drop. It's fine. I kind of need it, right? Because I have the Spell Pierce up. It's kind of what I look for. I want to keep digging through. If I have the Spell Pierce, maybe I can stop a quick, just instant quick sorcery that they use to draw through, but I mean, they find the 4th land. It's not great. With the Dash Ragavan and the Murktide coming at me, I think the game is relatively over. There's only 4 cards in their graveyard, 42 cards left in their deck. It's not looking too good right now. So I'm thinking, what do I do? What's my plan if I can't find removal? They exile the Flooded Strand, which is great. I don't exactly want to draw that. And I mean, the Ragavan goes back to their hand. They get to do some things on their side. I'm still thinking, what do I do? What's my game plan? I don't have Mainboard Ensnaring Bridge. I could obviously, if I did, maybe play against the counterspell, play for the Spell Pierce, but after some thought, I'm then gonna, well, tutor for a land, because that's what fetch lands do, and try and thin out my deck. Deck thinning is very important, because increase your odds of trying to find that minimal win. I don't know. There's nothing for me to counter here. We just got to go to my main phase and see what I can do. Now, the double Archive Trap isn't great. I don't have Field of Ruin. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm going to try and hard cast the Jace. 8 gets Spell Pierce. To be fair, I could have cast it for 3, but I mean, I cast it for 3. They play a Murktide Regent and then dash, you know, they have the Murktide Regent, dash into Ragavan. It's going to be at like less than 4. It's not looking good. I kind of had to hard cast and hope for something. Let's go to game 2. Now this is good. This is actually a good hand. I get to feed away some stuff with Preordains. I get to keep a Subtlety. The Subtlety is going to stop the Murktide Regent that I can hopefully nab, and Ensnaring Bridge is really good. Now, potentially I should have put the Subtlety away, considering I don't have many blue spells, but I don't exactly want to feed their yard with the Ruin Crab just yet. But they haven't played much. They're redrawing with Mishra's Bauble, and I have the Ensnaring Bridges to do something if I need to. So I'm thinking, okay, I got the Spell Pierce. I drew another spell. I can play the kind of crab and, you know, feed the Murktide, because I can Subtlety it. That's pretty good. I can bait them into a false sense of security, make them tap out, do things. And then I have the Fatal Push back up. Hopefully I can find a land and I can play my Ensnaring Bridge. Once that Ensnaring Bridge is on the battlefield, they're not going to be able to do much. And I'll tell you what, this game, you're going to see that this Subtlety goes far and the bridge goes far. Now, on Mind Step, I'm going to Fatal Push the Dreadheart Arcanist. Pretty slow card for Modern these days. There was a time when it was a staple. Now, missing the land drop. Ooh, wow, that puts us behind. I'm not gonna lie, this was not a good draw. If I drew a land there, I think there was a pretty good opportunity for me to win this game. It would have put me far enough ahead where now I have to think about how I play my Ensnaring Bridge, whereas I would have just been able to get it out. I would have only had to worry about maybe an artifact removal spell, an Otawara, very few things. Now, if they care this much about removing my crab, I'm just gonna Spell Pierce. And now they Unholy Heat and Lightning Bolt. So this is showing me they have a Spell Pierce. They didn't want to pay for it. So that's one thing I'm worried about right now. The Subtlety's still up, and I don't think I'm going to get Archive Trap off, which is fine. Now I play the land, play the Ensnaring Bridge. Guess what happens, folks? It gets Spell Pierce. You see that? You see what happens here? I lost my tempo, and that's one of the downsides here. I'm at 21 lands. Mill has been playing 22, 23 for a while. 21 lands is really tough. You don't get a lot of mana to cast your 3 to 4 mana spells, but maybe it's too late. Maybe it's not. We're still going to grind them out for a little bit. We still got some clock, as you're seeing in the timestamps below. Now, that 39 cards, 15 cards in yard, it's not bad. Now, I have a Field of Ruin, so that's not bad. I can hard cast a Subtlety. I don't need to cast Archive Trap, and I can do so at end step if I need to. So, okay, they have no threats. I have answers. Not bad, not bad. Right? It's looking up. It's looking up, folks. Have some confidence in the Archive Trap. I can push them beyond. I can keep a Visions. It's good. Now, the Murktide Regent is going to come out. I'm going to hard cast the Subtlety and see if they have something. Now, they're going to, you know, search their library. They're going to cast Counterspell. I'm going to Archive Trap. That's pretty good. They're tapped out. This deck really only plays like one Force Negation, so I get the Ensnaring Bridge out. The Drown is fine, but they have the Interaction spell. Now they have 2 cards left in hand. I'm gonna get hit for 8. That's not great. I'm gonna go back down to 8 life. It's not looking good at all, and I wish I had the extra land to counter it. You see how being down on mana really stops you. It's the age-old problem of all Magic players. Now they go through the damage step. Are they going to do anything on their second main? Are they going to cast a creature? Unfortunately, I'm not able to counter it. Honestly, I would have just killed the Murktide. I would have drawn out the counter spell. That way, my next spell is a little bit more productive. Now, they're not going to do anything. They have nothing to do on their end step. They're just going to keep going. On my turn, what do I draw? I draw something pretty good, actually. It's not bad. Because if you take a look at it, we have Drown in our hand. They have 2 mana on their side. And I draw the Subtlety. That's pretty good, right? Now, I have the Drown on the Loch available. All right, if they do anything on their end step here, 110% I'm going to drown, but they don't. That's fine. So I'm going to drown on their upkeep to force any action, force mana being used. They don't have the counterspell, or maybe they have a Spell Pierce, and I have the mana to pay for it. So that's great. Now we're back at that ground zero point where Subtlety is available. And they don't have threats. We're actually grinding with Murktide. Folks, come on. Subtlety is actually pretty good, but it all starts with Ensnaring Bridge. Ensnaring Bridge is a really good threat just because, or a defense mechanism, I should say, because the deck doesn't have many answers. They usually only have a fairy. So they'll have the Lord of the Rings card that they just cast as well. They'll usually just have an Otawara. It's pretty good. Now, keeping up the Subtlety is going to be pretty key. If they dash in a Ragavan, it's going to be important for me to put it back on top of their library. I can shuffle it away with Field of Ruin. And I also have an Otawara. Otawara is going to be so powerful here because now I can cast it and I can do multiple things. I could return Otawara to their hand. Maybe they cast a Murktide Regent, taking away a lot of their instant and sorceries just to get it to an 8/8. And then I return to their hand. They cast it again. I then Subtlety it. There's a lot of good things for me here. So, especially because Otawara is generally uncounterable. You have to have really niche things to stop something like this. It's going to be a good spell against a deck holding Spell Pierces and counter spells. Now they're going to play a land and pass. That's great. No threats, 20 cards left in their library. I'm feeling pretty good. This is, you know what, for all of those watching this right now, leave it in the comment section down below. Have y'all ever gotten to this point against Murktide? It's pretty crazy at this point, right? It's getting pretty good. It's getting pretty juicy, but the game's going pretty long. It's a grind fest. And this is what you got to do against mid-range decks. You got to think things through and you got to be careful with what you want to do. Now, on my turn, I draw the crab, but I don't necessarily want to play it. I'm thinking between it right now because playing it means I can't cast Otawara or Subtlety, but I might be able to draw out some type of interaction spell. Do I play the Ruin Crab and then play the Otawara just to bait it out? I play the Ruin Crab and then play Stern Scolding. Stern Scolding is absolutely wild, by the way. There is no way you bring that in against Mill. Is it worth it? I thought you would want the crabs to feed you. It makes Dragon Rage Channelers 3/3s and makes Murktide super big. Stern Scolding is not a counterspell I was expecting, but hey, if you're just going to draw cards and pass, I'm perfectly, kind of fine with that as well. Now, back on my turn, I'm thinking if I can draw more lands, then it's going to allow me to just cast spells as well. It's going to allow me to do things at the same time. And I managed to draw another land. I'm not necessarily concerned with something like Blood Moon just yet. I haven't really seen it. It could happen, but I have the Field of Ruin to Field of Ruin them and potentially get a basic swamp out of the whole equation. So it's not looking terribly bad. And if I start Field of Ruining them, I imagine they don't have any more lands. Take in their graveyard. They do have a basic island in there. They have 2 on the battlefield. I think the decks generally play approximately 3 to 4, so I'm hoping I can dodge the last one. Now that Preordain draw is pretty good. Now they dash in the Ragavan. This is why having stuff like this up is really good. Now I'm going to Subtlety. I'm going to put the Ragavan back on top. Now they can Unholy Heat. They can bolt it. I don't care because I've dealt with the Ragavan. I can now shuffle it away. I can just hope they don't draw it. But I draw the Drown in the Loch. So I could lock them out. I could make that predictable move, but I decide, hey, I'm the mill player. I get to attack as well too. Subtlety as a threat is actually kind of good. It's a lightning bolt every turn. It's pretty damn solid. Now I decided to take the route of shuffling things away. I think it's a lot cleaner. And as I mentioned, Field of Ruin is just straight up land destruction. They don't have another basic to grab. This deck doesn't play basic mountains. Now they play a Fury. Perfect card to Drown in the Loch, which is great. And I still have Otawara for anything that they might play after. The Preordain draw is absolutely insane. Hit them down to 8. We might win this. We actually might get away with this. Now, I put the Fractured Sanity on top, draw it. I don't want to cast it just yet. I still want to hold up Otawara because I want to do things on their turn. I want to make them feel like that they're losing tempo. I'm going to cycle this away. I think it's ultimately going to get countered. And I think Spell Pierce is actually pretty nice because if I can get some type of threat spell, that'd be nice. I'm not going to play the Oboro just yet while I'm thinking if I should because it just gives them information. I have 5 mana for my Archive Traps. I don't need to cast them at all. So Subtlety is just going to attack in. That's all it's going to do. I have my Oboro up, and if I draw a crab, I can play the Oboro. I can do things like that. And what's nice here is they're just going to think I have another interaction spell. Playing mind games is exactly what you want to do with your opponent. Spell Pierce, Otawara, pretty good. And at least if they draw some type of draw spell, I'm just going to throw out the Spell Pierce. I'm going to make them work for it. I'm going to make them cast some mana. They're going to play the Ragavan, and I'm thinking, do I return this? Do I let them hit me? I don't know, because they could take away land. And I'm not necessarily concerned. They got 3 cards in hand. They, don't really have many lightning bolts left. I mean, there's 1 in the graveyard. There has to be maybe 2 left. They can't be all of them there. Regardless, I decide to Otawara, turn it back to their hand, and they're not going to get it anymore. They can play it again. That's fine. They can do whatever they want. But I still have my Subtlety on my turn. That is unblocked. I'm going to take them down. I can go lethal on life with the mill. We're getting close. Can I draw the removal spell? Can I draw the Drown in the Loch? That's what I need to do. But regardless, I draw the Spell Pierce. I play the land. It's getting kind of silly at this point. I didn't need to play the Oboro, honestly. I was kind of just autopiloting at this point. And honestly, I should have actually just attacked here. They probably would have blocked. I'm only at 8 life. And they would have had to dash in a Ragavan, attack me back with a Dragon's Rage Channeler and Lightning Bolt. The chances actually aren't that bad. So I'm going to keep it up. It's fine. I'm going to use it as a blocker. If they decide to Lightning Bolt it, that's fine. That's something that they have to use to remove it. Or they just attack into it and I blank the attack anyway. Now, the Fractured Sanity is actually really good here. I can go back onto my turn. I can double Spell Pierce and we can get a lot of winning going. So this actually isn't that bad. Now, on my turn, Fractured Sanity, get it out there. Play the Force Negation to get some triggers off, that's fine. Play the Spell Pierce on it. It's looking good. I can counter it. And the Fluster Storm. Oh, I had the win right there. And the 1-0 Fluster Storm. He did the math, he count. There's too many on the stack. It's not much I'm going to do. I was so close to beating Murktide. I could have cycled. That was also another option, but I think going for it was correct. Can't just play around the Fluster Storm all the time. And you know what? I'm not done and out just yet, but they find the Lightning Bolt. They kill my Subtlety. They're going to start attacking these. I'm going to make them pay for it. I'll cast the Spell Pierce, whatever, right? They're going to Spell Pierce my Spell Pierce. It's getting ridiculous. Folks, it's getting absolutely ridiculous. But they're going to dash in the Ragavan. I'm still at 3 life. They need to top deck Lightning Bolt. It's not the end of the game just yet. They take a Snow-Covered Island, which is good. I don't want to draw that. But what do I draw that can save me this game? One time, what do I draw that can save me this game from a Ragavan, Dragon's Rage Channeler? Ensnaring Bridge? One time? Drown in the Loch? One time? Because then I could kill the Ragavan, right? There's a couple options that work. Heck, even a Mill spell works here. A Crab actually isn't that bad, but it's not great against removal because I can return the Oboro to my hand. I can build them a little bit. It's not actually that terrible. There's options. There's options. There's options. And while my opponent waits to dash back the Ragavan to their hand, oh, it's getting sticky. I'm sweating. This Charoth is, they're making me work. They're making me work for this. I got them so close and they got the Fluster Storm. Come on. What do I draw here, folks? Can I find the W? Can I find the card that I need? The Ensnaring Bridge, the removal, the Mill spell. There are so many live draws. Just don't let it be a land. Please, 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 just do not let it be a land. Let's go to the third match where things start looking up in this league. So I said things would start looking up, right? And I'm gonna be honest, right? They are. Even though I mauled once, Windswept Heath is pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good about that. They're gonna fetch. Windswept Heath commonly isn't really that just a good fetch line in general. I'm thinking elementals at first, but then I mill them over with an Archive Trap, and I'm seeing stuff of mono white Prison Karn lists. They got Stone of Eric too. I guess tech to like exile their own stuff. It's cool. I play my Rune Crab. I fetch them. They got an Urge Assault. I didn't just what they're doing doesn't really bother me. That's all I'm trying to get to. They play a Skyclave Apparition, which is fine because my Rune Crab disappears, which means it leaves the battlefield. I can Fatal Push. I get my own 1/1. Which is fine. That's great. That's blockers. I'm then going to Fractured Sanity them to put more cards in their graveyard. I don't need to draw more just yet. I don't expect like a main board Rest in Peace or anything. So that's fine. Worst thing that they can do is like play a land and play Karn, but that's not the end of the world either. I'm just going to get Fractured Sanity them. And just play the mill game, right? Why would I need to draw cards if I draw exactly what I mean? Let's go to game 2. You're going to love these set of games because they're just going to be short. I'm going to spoil it for you, y'all. This is going to be a quick 2-0 because you draw things nice. You put the Archive Trap on top because they did not fetch on their turn. Folks, if you're playing against Mill, fetch on your turn. Don't let me do stuff like this. I have the Archive Trap in hand. You could have now not been punished for it. I play my second land. I now have Drown in the Loch because you got to fetch at some point. And now I'm going to Archive Trap you. I got the Subtlety up as well, which is great for the kind of blank Karn. If I have to tap out and, you know, they play Karn, that's fine too. And the Stone of Eric is going to enter the battlefield. That's fine. It's not a problem to me. Creatures aren't going to enter the battlefield on my side. And I fetch tapped. I have my Hedron Crab. I got a Polluted Delta. That's got your number, Ander71. Those cards are going back into the graveyard where they belong. I don't have a Visions of Beyond to take advantage of things. I don't want to fetch the Polluted Delta if I don't have to on my turn. If they want to, they can use a removal spell on their turn, use mana here, which is great. That's great. They're tapped out. That's exactly what I want to see. But the key thing you have to remember is they missed their land drop. They're missing land drops. And now I'm going to play a Fractured Sanity. I'm going to mill them out even more. I could Field of Ruin. That might also was a pretty solid option, but milling them seems good too. Now, if they go land into some type of Ram spell, play Karn, I got Subtlety. I don't care. But they're not going to draw any lands. Now, I want to do things on their turn. Ideally, I see that I got the Field of Ruin Archive Trap, but if I need to counter something, if I need to remove something, I'd rather do that. I don't need to do that to a Wall of Omens. That's going to draw cards from them. That's taking cards out of their library. Let's be honest here. Now, the Urza Saga is actually pretty good for us. I'm going to keep that because, you know, it's making a land. They try and give themselves hexproof. I Archive Trap them. It's done. Opponent, it's over. It's not going to work out. Now, Ruin Crab's in our hand. I don't want to play it into removal until I find a land. So we stay patient. They're at 5 cards. What are they really going to do when I draw the Snow-Covered Island? Ruin Crab, hit them dead. And they got 2 cards left. They're going to draw 1. It's not looking good, especially with the Subtlety available. They're going to create a token. That's fine with me. They're going to create another token. And they're going to look for the last card in their library and see if they win the game. Come on, folks. You got 1 card left. Let's be completely honest. I'm going to Fatal Push that. You got absolutely nothing. GG's. See, we won 1 game and we got our confidence back. Let's go into this game 4 with that gusto. We got the Ruin Crab. We're going to play it out because next turn, this probably isn't good form. Honestly, I don't have a turn 2 play. I should have waited in case of removal, but it's fine. I don't get punished for it. They play a fetch, which is great. I have the Archive Trap. I'm then going to play my fetches. I'm then going to mill them out that way. And if they want to do something now, that's fine. I have the Flooded Strand. Sometimes your opponent will do that. Now I see the Ragavan in their side. I'm going to then fetch tap, but then I see the Wild Nacatl and it's Domain Zoo. Interesting. Those Crypt Incursions are going to look pretty good. Just a spoiler warning there. They play a Territorial Kavu. I got the Fatal Push. It's fine. Creatures are okay as long as it's not Scion of Draco. That would be quite the problem to deal with. On my turn, I go to my upkeep. I go to my draw. I draw Spell Pierce, a card that isn't necessarily going to have a super high impact, but Tribal Flames is a thing. Lightning Bolt's a thing. They don't have that much mana. But on my turn, I have Jace the Perfected Mind. I'm going to draw 3 cards. I'm going to put it down to 1. If they decide to Lightning Bolt it, it's fine. I got my value. I got my Tashas. I got my Preordain. I got my Ruin Crab. Now, Tashas isn't that great, but I did mill over 3 Scion of Dracos. There still is 1 more, so I'm not really looking to cast Tashas. And they have the Nishobi Brawler. They have the Leyline, which takes my Jace. That's fine. I can maybe Otawara it if the game goes along, get my Jace back and do all that stuff. The Brawler is also fine. I got Preordain too. Remember that, right? But I draw the land, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I play the Crab to get my value off of the land. Mill them for 6, bring them down to 19 cards. It's looking good. I wish this was the Visions, but it's fine. Ultimately, I decide to cast the Fatal Push and then cast the Preordain, because at this point, I just want to draw more mill spells. I just want to draw more cards. And I think the double Tashas is fine in case they have some type of shuffle effect. I don't really want to bottom it. I'm going to hold up the Spell Pierce also in case they have some removal for my Crabs, make them pay for it. They're going to play the Tarmogoyf on their turn, which is fine. It's a 6-7. I'm at 17. I don't think I'm necessarily, quote unquote, losing the game immediately, right? Now I draw the Crab. It's not looking great without kind of a land available, so I'm going to throw out a Tasha's. They have a Stubby D, which is cool. I see that off their graveyard. I have the Spell Pierce to interact with that. They give up. You need the spells to get past the counter spells. Let's see what we can do in game 2. For all my mill boomers out there, you're going to love this one because Crypt Incursion comes in big. We did have to mull, but we're on the draw. That's fine. So we still do get 7 cards. They have the Ragavan off the rip, which is a problem. It's not great, but we stand tall in the face of adversity. We play Darkslick Shores. I'm going to hold up the Spell Pierce, and I'm not going to play the Crab because I think it's ultimately going to get removed, so I want to get some value out of it. Hopefully they don't take something away from me. They take the Subtlety, which is cool, right? That's not anything, right? Now, the Subtlety would have given me some card disadvantage. I play the Rune Crab. I then decide to, you know, kind of play my Polluted Delta. They go for the removal, which isn't great because then I get my mill 6 out of it. You kind of want to wait for something like this. So they played right into it. I decide to then, guess what? Counter the Lightning Bolt. If you care that much about my Rune Crab, of course I'm going to stop you. Come on. Be so serious. I'm going to get as many triggers as I can because I see that Crypt Incursion. I can't wait for anything else. It can't be a Lightning Bolt directed at my face. I need as many creatures as possible in that yard so that I can stop that. Now, thankfully, they don't have any further removal. I'm able to block the Ragavan. That's not hitting me for anything. And the more Flooded Strands I draw, the more fetch lands I draw, the more I'm going to be mill over. And I mill only 3 lands there, and that's okay. You can't win them all. But every creature that I gain is going to be 3 life off of Crypt Incursion, and that's really going to matter. We're going to see that in a second here. I'm going to Fractured Sanity, which is kind of sticky. I'm at 13, and they do have 3 mana. That could be a Lightning Bolt, a Tribal Flames, and attack at me. That's a lot of damage. That could be like 11 plus damage if they have a way to remove my crap. Now I block the Ragavan. That's fine. They fetch. I'm going to be able to Archive Trap here as well. They play the Territorial Kavu. I get that off. Wow. That graveyard is looking crazy. The problem is I see the Veil of Summer at the bottom. I have to think. Do I go for it? Do I not? I kind of have to, right? I can't get around it. I have to Crypt Incursion and I get there. 52 life. Let's go. We are back in this game. Again, for all my mill boomers out there, you're going to love that life total. For my mill zoomers, you're going to see why this card is mandatory in your 75. You always have great games with a card like this. But they are having a, you know, they do have a big board. They played a Hedron Crab off the Ragavan. They are mocking me. That's fine. I need one more land for this Archive Trap. I can draw it. I got life totals. You're milling me. I don't care. You're milling on my lands, though. That is the bit of a problem. I do care a little bit about that, but that's fine. You put Giganta in your hand previous turn. You play it now, and that's fine. The Hedron Crab isn't going to attack me. I'm taking 5 a turn. It's a bit of a problem. The Ragavan's taking stuff off the top. Taking the Watery Grave, it's extra painful. I draw the Rune Crab as well, and I decide, look, I don't need to play this. I don't think if I could just play the Rune Crab with a fetch land out, especially next turn, they're at 7, I'm gonna get a lot of value off of it. And they don't want to fetch either because they are playing around this pretty well. They're smart, thinking I have an Archive Trap in my hand. I have nothing to do. I'm gonna be taking 10 damage a turn. So the clock is ticking now. It's getting a little ridiculous. I need to draw cards. They don't want to cast the visions that they found. I play my Rune Crab. I play my Otawara, and I kind of force their hand a little bit. That's that 5th land. What I'm worried about, though, is I didn't cast the Archive Trap because I was worried about a Veil of Summer or a Stubborn Denial. So I'm going to play into their board a little bit. I'm going to block the Ragavan just so they're not stealing cards, but I'm still taking a lot of damage here. Now I have the Drown. And now I'm thinking, how do I get around what they're doing? How do I play around what they're doing? They're playing lands, they're milling me over, and they're taking down my life total. I'm gonna go back to blocking the Ragavan. I'm gonna continue to take a bunch of damage. I'm gonna drown that. And what's great is I draw out the Stubborn Denial. That's huge because now there's a lot less for me to play around. But regardless, I didn't need to cast the Archive Trap. I played around their interaction spells. I played the Flooded Strand. They're at 0 cards. Let's go to game 5 and see if we can't get this 3-2. Game 5. I gotta mill a bunch. I'm down to 5. But what's great about hands like this now is Preordain superpowers them. Truly, it does. And I have the Drown and the Loch as well. Preordain does so much for us in terms of options. It allows me to sync through and not just draw raw cards, but card selection. Now I see I'm up against Yawgmoth. I Preordain the Rune Crab back to the top of my hand, and I'm gonna hold on. I don't want to play the Crab into removal just yet. I want to maybe hold out the visions if they destroy things. Now I play the Rune Crab now, and I got the Polluted Delta. Now it's gonna get a little spicy. We're gonna be able to take over this game against the Yawgmoth player who does things a little bit slower. There are some threats though that they can play that are really problematic. Now they play the Orcish Bowmasters, which is great. You gotta play around the punishing effects. I draw the kind of 6 cards that I have in my deck with 2 visions, and they concede because they play the Orcish Bowmasters, and I was able to draw 6 cards. Insane in the brain. I'm gonna have so many lands, so many spells. They can't contend with this. Let's go to game 2. Now, what I really should have called this video is how insane Crypt Incursion is. And that's a bit of a spoiler. You're going to see how good it is right now. Now, Delighted Halfling is interesting in this deck now because it actually casts Grist. Remember, Grist is a creature. And that's exactly what we're going to see here. This Planeswalker is absolutely insane. So I have to get my value out of Ruin Crab right now. And I'm going to do my best just to kill the Halfling just so they don't power out a Yawgmoth with a land, because then they get Yawgmoth and they kill my creatures. But regardless, they get the Young Wood value. They kill my Ruin Crab and that's fine. They're just off a Yawgmoth now. And they're going to start doing some damage. That Grist minus is actually a real threat. And so I'm going to Field of Ruin them. I'm going to Archive Trap them. That puts them at 22 cards in hand. And I decide to wait. I have to play around the Bowmasters. I can't just be taking free damage for nothing. Hopefully they play into it. That'd be fantastic. They Verdant Catacombs. They search their library. They got 4 mana. What are you going to do? You're going to play a Yawgmoth. You're going to tap out, which allows me to cast Visions without having to worry about Orcish Bowmasters. Now the hand is pretty good. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it stops that Grist minus if I need to. That Extirpate is going to take out the Endurances, which is really the big problem outside of the minus. I play the Soul Guide Lantern, and we have that up. I have the Drown in the Loch. They have the minus. We're playing that game right now. Now on their upkeep, I decide to kill this now just so they can't be doing things on their turn with that extra card that they draw. They only have 1, right? Get a little bit of value out of it, and that's fine. They keep creating insects. They mill cards over. The Quarter Calling Mill is actually huge. Like, I don't want them tutoring for things, but they are weeding me away. I'm at 6 life. That's not too great. Now they have the minus on their turn. I have the Soul Guide Lantern, and I draw the Crypt Incursion, baby. The Crypt gets me to 60 life. For all my mill boomers out there and my mill zoomers, please remember that the moral of the story is never ever let Crypt Incursion leave your 75. 3-2 to end off a terribly starting league, but one that ends off with such a zinger. Thank you for watching.